What's up, dudes? Max here, back with some more impressions of games that I had hands-on experiences with at E3. Man, I hate using that word experiences, but I can't help but say it for everything that happened when I played Smash Bros. At E3, and that's what we're talking about now. Smash Bros. 3DS, in my opinion, is my most sought-after version of Smash Bros. Because it's literally coming out before the big version of the game. And the biggest problem with the big version of the game on the Wii U is the fact that we have no idea when this thing is actually coming out. It's said for winter 2014, and I honestly hope they stick to that, but I have this funny feeling that there is a small chance it could get delayed even into 2015, even though if it's still within the winter period. However, we do have something to reassure us, and it's that the new Smash Bros. 3DS is going to be arriving on October 3rd, and that seems to be set in stone. However, my entire impressions might not be totally positive for this game, so let's just get started. I think the number one thing we can talk about is the visuals. Smash 3DS retains pretty much everything you're going to know in the Smash Wii U version, minus a couple of small changes between, graphics running at slower frame rates and stuff like that. Upon visiting the game, the number one thing that I noticed is that between the many different 3DSs that they had on the show floor for you to play the game, most of them I had to go to the ones that were 3DS XLs. I did feel that the screen size on the regular 3DS was way too small, as well as the 3DS itself when I have tried to play games like Street Fighter 4, actual fighting games on it in the past. It's just way too cumbersome, and I much prefer playing on an XL just because it fits for my big dumb American hands a lot easier. But the bigger issue and the need for this larger screen as you would experience on a 3DS XL is because, oh my gosh man, the characters get freaking tiny, especially when you're playing on this system and we didn't have the graphical control options to limit the outline around characters. You actually have the option to make the outline around characters, this black outline, more prominent or completely non-existent, and they added this so that you can actually identify the characters a little bit more, but I feel that the thick outlines that were prevalent at E3 on the demo were way too distracting, and when characters got from a further distance out and the camera was like at its max distance, and you're watching a fight happen and trying to find out which character you are, if your character happens to be a darker color by any means in like a black costume or a black variant, oh my gosh dude, it's really hard to identify, okay, which one am I? And you're almost exclusively kind of looking for that 1, 2, 3, or 4 player marker above their head. It's kind of annoying, and it's a little jarring, especially for myself when I'm used to being able to see what's going on in Smash Brothers, and being such a hectic game with so much crazy stuff going on, and in the modes we had, which had items on and stages going absolutely crazy, and trying to keep track of what's going on alongside a new control scheme, it was a little jarring and a little frustrating, to be honest. I did not want to give up on the 3DS version, so I continually went back because, in all honesty, the 3DS version did not have that big of a line. By comparison of the Wii U, you had to wait maybe a total of 2 to 4 minutes to play on the Wii U, but you only had to wait maybe 30 to 45 seconds to play any given time a game of Smash Bros. On 3DS on the show floor. And a lot of people went up, played it, walked away a lot of the time. So I spent this time trying to get used to the controls, playing it a little bit, got a good 20 to 25 matches. I'd say about half as much as it did on Wii U. And the biggest, most annoying thing was the character sizes. It just seems that they're very small in comparison to what you're used to seeing on the Wii U especially, so you kind of have to throw that out the window and just acknowledge that this is the 3DS version. The graphics and the detail when you do get in close on the characters does look very good, and it runs at 60 frames per second most of the time. I know a lot of people will argue with me on this, and a lot of folks that I've spoken to that have played the 3DS version along with myself have said that the 3DS version ran great for them and they have no complaints, and they're like, yeah, it's awesome, it's great, it's great, it's great, and I'm just like, I see frame rate issues up the butt. I can't, I'm a big connoisseur of frame rates, of just 60 frames per second in video games. I just love the way it looks. I love the way it plays and everything about it. I think it's critical, especially for fighting games. And this game runs at a frame rate that makes you think it's 60, when it's not actually. There's this big issue that, or not really an issue, it's kind of a saying I have. If you're looking at a game and you can't identify that it's 60 frames per second, that you're having this really tough issue of seeing whether or not it's between 30 or 60, there's a pretty good chance it's running somewhere between 45 to 50 or 45 to 55. 55 is pretty good. It's almost indistinguishable between 55 and 60 FPS, but between 40 to 50, it can get a little iffy, and it's kind of hard to identify. You don't know if you're looking at 60 FPS, and I was getting that all the time when I was playing the 3DS version, especially when there was a lot of action going on in between the 4-player fights. I so much so captured some off-screen footage with the DSLR that actually does capture at 60 frames per second on the camera, and I went back and I thumbed through the images and I went frame by frame, and yet it totally is hanging on quite a few frames, so it is not running at 60 frames per second consistently. And this is what I think the big reason is behind the delay of the game. We were supposed to get Super Smash Bros. 3DS not too long from now. Indeed, a summer release was initially presumed for the game, and then it got delayed completely until fall, like a good 3-4 month delay depending on when it actually is going to hit, if it does hit October 3rd. So I think the issue is because of this. There's some stability problems for the game as far as fluctuating frame rates, especially in single player. Oh my god, I did have the chance to try out single player a couple of times, and single player definitely hitches on the frame rate because there's a lot of on-screen enemies and a lot of action going on, and everything kind of rushes you. But let's talk about the game itself and the gameplay. And luckily the gameplay seems pretty much intact, minus the frame rate acting weird sometimes. Everything's pretty much Smash Brothers, which is fantastic. The biggest issue is that, oh my god, the controls suck. I'm not even really having a problem with the buttons on the right side. X and Y were both jump, and A and B were your regular attack and special attack. So that's not too different from what's going on in a GameCube controller, which I played through the entire time I've ever played Smash Brothers. It's the freaking analog stick, and the analog stick bugs the heck out of me. I almost hope that they find a way to incorporate D-pad support. I know this game involves tilts and everything like that, because I want there to be a different option than the analog. The analog is where I have a lot of issues, as far as I could have swore I just did up B and up B to do a recovery move, and I totally didn't. It gave me like an up left, and I had to be super precise about exactly where I hit that. That's a thing with me, of course. That's exactly a player thing, but it just goes to show you that I've never really been a fan of the 3DS's analog, and it kind of shows, especially when you need to be super precise with a fighting game like Smash Brothers in order to land these critical hits and to get recovery moves exactly when you need them. I think the analog is going to be kind of a big issue, but we'll see. My biggest hope is, and I know this will never happen, is that they make an adapter for that multi-tap that's coming out for the GameCube. I'm sorry, that's coming out for the Wii U to use GameCube controllers. That they make some sort of adapter for it to work on 3DS where I can use a controller on 3DS. I know it's never going to happen. I almost want to find a dude that can mod that thing for me, but regardless, I just got to get used to it. And over the time of me playing just like Smash Bros. Wii U, feeling really weird compared to previous games, I started to get used to the 3DS version, and I actually started to make sense of some characters and how they play. But it always kind of came back to, oh my gosh, now I can't see anything because the characters are so small and the camera's super panned out. Whoa, did the frame rate just dip? So it's got some issues. It makes sense that it's been delayed a little bit because it does need a little bit of work. The nice thing is that a few characters that were playable or not playable on the Wii U version were playable on the 3DS version, so we can see that Sheik plays totally like Sheik still, and I was able to get hands-on time with a few other characters that will have identical movesets to the Wii U version, so I got to mess around with them a little bit more on 3DS to get used to their moves. But in general, the 3DS version gave me a super meh. Like, at the end of it, I want to have more time with it, but I feel like it needs work, and I feel like that's what the delay was for. So good on Nintendo for pushing this back. I'd prefer to get super polished Smash Brothers on 3DS. I want it to run amazing. I want the online to be freaking fantastic, and that's the thing I'm most anxious for right now, is to see how the online actually works for that game over the Nintendo 3DS network. I'm very curious, because that's going to kind of be an example of what we can expect Nintendo's quality of online play in the future with Smash Brothers coming out on Wii U. Either way, there's a lot to look forward to this game. It's the first Smash Brothers coming out. You're going to pretty much get a huge head start on this one. You just got to adjust from the 3DS controls when you get good at that to the GameCube controls, but you don't really adjust to GameCube controls. That game was designed for that controller practically. It just feels really good. So I wouldn't worry too much. And I'm still really anxious about playing more Smash Brothers on the 3DS when it does come out. So much so that I'm investing quite a bit, and I'm actually buying a 3DS capture device so you guys can watch gameplay of specific Smash Brothers online, like ranked matches of myself and Matt, for example, playing online in the same room, and we can literally stream direct feed footage of this game, which sounds absolutely fantastic to myself. I'm looking forward to seeing something like that, so hopefully you guys are as well. And that stuff is by no means cheap in any way. It's rather expensive, but I think when I cover fighting games, I want the highest quality and the highest regard when it comes to coverage of how things look. So I don't believe the 3DS runs at a native 480p. I think it's just below that, just a little bit. So we're going to get pretty much the best possible quality footage we can get up on YouTube YouTube, up on Twitch for live streaming and everything like that, and hopefully be able to play with everyone else when the game comes out. That's pretty much the next big game, and I have faith that Nintendo can do a good job after Mario Kart 8 running pretty competently online and being a lot of fun to play. Smash Bros. 3DS is pretty much the biggest fighting game of this year, right next to the Wii U version, and I only hope the Wii U version can make it in tandem with the 3DS as far as a 2014 title. Don't let us down, Nintendo. A lot of people want to play this game, and a lot of people deserve to play it early on the 3DS and have it run well. If you guys got a chance to play Super Smash on the 3DS, let me know in the comments below, and let everyone else know your thoughts, because this is a very, very personal opinion. It's just my experience with the game, and I'd like to see what everyone else thinks about the game too. As always, thank you dudes very much for watching. Stay tuned for extended Smash coverage as I'll go over character breakdowns for the few characters that I was really interested in at the show, and the ones that I got a ton of playtime with. As always, thank you guys very much for watching. My name is Maximilian, and I'll see you next time.